What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Mekhi back in the building. You feel me? Now, today we got a whole new NBA video for you guys. It's called "How the NBA Became Soft." We're gonna go and deep dive into this because I heard a lot of you guys in the comment section talking about how the NBA is soft nowadays, and back then it was way tougher. And quite frankly, I agree, but we're going to look into this video and see how did it become how it was today. If you guys enjoy the videos that I make, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And let's go ahead and get into the video.
It's an extremely popular and yet controversial narrative that is consistently brought up in today's NBA discussions. The game has gone soft. You'll hear the old heads say it, both athletes and fans, talking about how their generation was tougher and things didn't come as easily back in their day. Is there some bias to their opinions? Sure, of course there is. But if you ask me my opinion, the NBA has gone soft. But it might not be for the reasons you think, or the reasons the old heads say.
Now, before he goes into that, my main reasoning, like I tell people, when you look into our game, the biggest thing of our game is offense. And I think since it's more marketable to showcase offense. So, NBA players, like the NBA casual fans, they want to see the NBA players do the dunks, the threes, the ankle breakers, things of that nature. They don't want to see somebody clamping somebody up throughout the whole play. They don't want to see that. They want to see the double step backs, and they want to see the traveling and the carrying and all that stuff, because it leads to getting a bucket. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to see somebody clamping somebody up, tackling somebody midair, clotheslining people, straight up just saying you're not getting to the rim. They don't want to see that. They want to see offense. And so I think that what they have done is that they have certain players who bend the rules a little bit. And, over time, they just kind of been more lenient to it, because it leads to more offensive, it leads to more points, and it leads to more offense. It's just a marketing thing. That's my reasoning as to why I think that the NBA has become soft nowadays.
A lot of people like to point to today's players and act like it's all because of their sensitive and fragile personalities. And although that might be
the case, and I was just going to bring it up, the only player who really does that is Kevin Durant. And that's one guy, we're going to go into it today. I'm sick and tired of holding back. My issue with Kevin Durant has simply been this, bro. You say that you wanted to win, right? You lose 3-1 to the team that beat you, right? The team that beat you, Golden State Warriors, was on the Thunder. You are in a call with Draymond Green, Stephen Curry, and Klay Thompson. Draymond Green said in this meeting, if you come to this team, you're going to receive a whole lot of backlash. You're gonna receive a whole lot of backlash, and you're gonna receive a whole lot of hate. You're gonna receive some stuff that's gonna really, really bother you. It's gonna really, really bother you. Are you ready for that? You have to be ready for that, and you can't react in a certain way or blah, blah. Kevin Durant said, yes, I will be able to handle that. He goes to the team, receives the backlash, which he signed. That information came out on the worst day possible, on the 4th of July. That information came out on the worst day possible. So you go to the team. What is going on? You go to the team. You get all this backlash, and now you're complaining about it? You're complaining about it? You're going on these Twitter burner accounts, and you're complaining about it? And then, just recently, he said, oh, why am I not on the GOAT list? Bro, look what you did, bro. You're not going to get respect from pretty much anyone being on that GOAT list. He's one of the most skilled basketball players of all time, one of the greatest scorers of all time, but on the GOAT list, you're not on that list because of that one decision that you made. And that was soft. That was extremely soft. I tell people like this, man. I don't want to go for too long, but I tell people like this. I asked 2K, people who play 2K, or even people who play in the rec. I said, look, listen. Let's say that you're on a team, right? You're on a team, and you're going against this other team that's just beating you every single time. Just bam, 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 just beating you every single time. And you're the best player on that squad. You're the one who's scoring. You're the one who's doing everything. And then that company, no, not the company, my bad. I'm thinking, well, we can use the company. Let's say that you're going against another company and that company is just overruling you over and over and over again, but you're bringing in great numbers. And that company or that team that keeps beating you comes to you and says, hey, do you want to join us? Because I see you over there struggling, man. You want to come and join us? We can get you right. And you say yes. And you go to that team or you go to that company and you're you know what I'm saying, you're doing everything you're supposed to do. You getting the bread, you scoring all the points, you winning the games or whatever, right? And then you receive backlash from the previous people over here. You can't be upset because you decided to be a bandwagon, be a snake, be a rat, and just go over there. Just go to the winning team. Just get the easy way out. You're not going to get respect. You're not going to get respect, bro. I'm sorry I had to ramble, but like that Kevin Durant thing really gets under my skin, bro.
True in a few cases, I think it's far from the main reason the game has become soft. There have been multiple significant events that have taken place throughout the years that have led our game to be the soft NBA that it currently is. In this one, we're taking a look at how the game has evolved throughout the years and just try to understand just exactly what is behind this narrative that claims that today's game is soft. This tends to be a touchy subject among fans because of the nostalgia of the older crowd and the recency bias of the younger fans. Everyone wants to say that their generation of basketball is the best brand of basketball, so please, let's enter this with an open mind. Agreed?
Okay.
Let's dig in.
Cool.
The physical and punishing days of basketball go as far back as its very beginning. The game of basketball was invented in December 1891 by James Naismith, a teacher and sports coach out of the University of Kansas. The game of basketball would ultimately become one that would reward finesse, but in those early years, the athletes were still making their adjustment from physical sports like football and rugby. The game was quite exciting and violent in the beginning. Steel mesh cages had to be constructed around the courts in order to keep excited spectators and fans from interfering with play.
Hold on. So now, I want to ask y'all 80s and 90s, yeah, 80s and 70s and 90s brothers who be coming to my videos talking about, oh, our era was tough. What about this era? Because I did actually know about this era. They used to have like certain guards because people used to like kick people and really tackle people, like come out with bloody noses, all different types of stuff back in the very beginning of basketball, because it was kind of like that. Because, you know, there wasn't no finesse and no, you know, simplicity of the game. And these are football players and rugby players playing basketball. So, you know, the rules weren't, you know, established yet. You know what I'm saying?
Also led to basketball players getting nicknamed cagers. Players would often slam each other into the steel wire, and the court was frequently covered in blood. One of the early players said, "The center tap was murderous. I've seen guys crippled." So the next time someone tries to brag to you about how the 80s or 90s were the most physical era, you might want to tell them about the 1890s, when basketball was played in a bloody cage. It wasn't until the early 1900s that the steel cage was replaced with a rope mesh net, and thus the game had begun to go soft. Okay, I'm obviously kidding. That change was absolutely necessary for obvious reasons. Let's fast forward a bit. Throughout the years of the NBA's history, the game has been dominated by big men.
Okay, before we get to it, I'm telling you right now, if you are thinking about going in my comment section and saying that we shouldn't talk about the 50s and the 60s and all that type of stuff, please click away from this video, because when I talk about, you know, certain, you know, basketball and things like that, I respect each and every era of basketball because it's still basketball. No matter what it is, it's still basketball.
From George Mikan in the 40s and 50s to Russell and Chamberlain in the 60s to Kareem to Shaq, the big man has been a force in the league for decades and has been able to use his size and strength to impose his will, both offensively and defensively. Underneath the basket is where most of the physicality happens and where the big man makes his money. With that being said, the NBA has been slowly reducing that interior advantage for years. Thanks to George Mikan's dominance in the early 1950s, the lane under the basket was widened from 6 feet to 12 feet, and as we know, an offensive player cannot be in this lane for 3 seconds. 1 decade later, and the lane was widened again from 12 feet to 16 feet, thanks to Wilt Chamberlain's dominance. This restricts the dominant big man from being able to simply camp under the basket, which naturally forces the big man to the perimeter. A more perimeter style of basketball means a less physical game, and with a less physical game comes a softer game. Into the 70s now, the dark ages of the NBA in many ways. Drug problems were rampant in the league at this time, and so was fighting. And with that came the...
Hey, this fight right here, hold on.
Problems were rampant in the league at this time, and so was fighting.
They was finna go at it, boy. You see there, he's on, oh, what you trying to do? Oh, what you trying to do, boy? They was finna go at it, boy.
And with that came the negative perception of the league with racist conclusions.
I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry, bro, but why you slapped the mess out that dude?
And with that came the negative perception of the league with racist conclusions, and the popularity of the game was reaching a concerning low. The NBA had to make changes, including more specific rules of conduct between players and harsher penalties for players who engaged in fighting. Thus another move which created a softer form of basketball. Now I should clarify, not all changes the league has made to make the game softer have been negative ones in my mind. Of course the league shouldn't allow an extensive amount of fighting and violence. In fact, that's something I would like you to consider as we progress through the rest of this video. Which of these changes were absolutely necessary, and which ones would we have been better off without? Jump ahead into the 80s, and we have the arrival of the saviors of the NBA, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. With them leading the way, the 80s were an extremely competitive and physical era of basketball. Although there wasn't fights seemingly every night like there was in the 70s, the style of play was still very physical and punishing. One team embodied this physical and brutal style of play more than any other. The bad boy Detroit Pistons. Their style of play was notorious and went even further beyond the physicality norm of that era. This team was considered extremely dirty and did not have the respect of many of their peers. The greatest rival to the Pistons during those years were Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls and the Pistons met in the playoffs 4 straight years from 1988 to 1991. The Pistons had a famous defensive scheme created by Isaiah Thomas to contain Michael Jordan, famously known as the Jordan Rules. The rules were essentially to make Jordan work vigorously on both sides of the ball, and anytime he drove the lane, they put him on his back. Michael took a beating those years in Detroit. Whether it was a hard foul or a soft foul, it didn't matter. It was all treated as the same common foul during that era of basketball. The NBA felt a need to make a change to protect its players, so they created the flagrant foul rule and began implementing it in the 1990-91 season. The flagrant foul essentially meant that any excessively violent or inappropriate contact that you committed would result in free throws and possession of the ball for the opponent, and even potentially an ejection, as compared to before when it required 2 technical fouls for an ejection. Before the flagrant foul had been implemented, there was basically an unwritten no layups rule. It made sense to punish the offensive player who was driving the lane and make him earn his free throws. But now, with the flagrant foul, a punishing foul could result in 4 or 5 points for the opponent in just one possession and the loss of your rim protector to an ejection. The same punishing, physical style of play that was common in the 80s now didn't work as a strategy for winning basketball. And of course, the game became softer as a result. Now on to the 2000s, where the NBA made several changes to the way the game is played. One of those changes was the hand check rule. The hand check rule was originally introduced in 1994, but the rules were updated and made even more strict in 2004. In the past, defensive players were able to place their hands on the offensive player and basically steer the player in which direction he wanted the offensive player to go.
Okay, before he keeps going, I just want to say, like, the hand check rule to certain NBA players, that didn't matter. That didn't matter. Because I think the rule, I forgot what Gilbert said, but Gilbert Arenas, he was talking about the hand check. He said it only worked for players that were having their back to the basket or who was just standing there. It wasn't going to work for a player who's, hot. It wasn't going to work for a player like that. Michael Jordan, it didn't work for MJ. It didn't work for Kobe. It didn't work for these perimeter guys that really could dribble the ball. Like, it didn't work for AI. It didn't work for Grant Hill. It didn't work for those guys. You had to really play defense and play them on angles and things like of that nature. But for other players like Magic Johnson, guys who kind of played kind of their back to the basket kind of, and even now they still kind of hand check now, but they just don't do it as much. But they still kind of hand check now. It's just not blatant where I'm just placing my hand right there. You know what I'm saying? But they kind of, they're kind of doing a little, they kind of doing a little bit of hand checking now, and I see it. But hand checking was not really that big of a deal, not really. Certain NBA players are getting past that. They're too strong. They're gonna get past that.
But the NBA completely eliminated the defender's ability to hand check the offensive player.
That's not hand checking, by the way. This is just straight up holding. And at this point, I mean, like, get off me, bro. Like, get off me.
Of course, this creates a less physical style of play. It also creates more freedom of movement for the offense, which is the primary reason I believe the NBA made this change. Because offense is sexy. It makes plenty of highlights. Star players making plays is sexy, like slam dunks, crossover dribbles, three-pointers, and so on. The defense controlling the offensive player is not sexy. Physical style of play is also not sexy. It's ugly, and even if it works, it doesn't entertain the casual fan. Now imagine having to defend a player as fast and explosive as Russell Westbrook, who's dribbling at the top of the key. In generations past, you would be able to place your hands on him and give him a forearm to ensure he doesn't blow by you on his way to the rim. But once the hand check rule was put in place, you couldn't do that anymore. Now you had to rely solely on your ability to slide your feet quickly in order to keep your body in front of him. But with your back to the basket and the league full of guards with crazy speed like Russell Westbrook and John Wall, how can we possibly expect the defender to be able to stay in front of him? Not only did this allow wing players to get to the rim more easily, but as we talked about earlier, there was now less the rim protector could do to stop the offensive player once he actually got to the rim, because physical defense is being punished more harshly now.
And what makes that even worse is that more people can shoot the three now. So now that opens it up even more now. You know what I'm saying? He probably gonna say that, but that opens it up even more because all five players can shoot. And you got Russell Westbrook at the top of the key. The defenders have to stay on the man because all five players can shoot. So now what do?
This was just another step in which the league may have created a more entertaining product, but also a softer one. Another NBA-altering event took place around that same time, November 19th, 2004, arguably the most terrible day in NBA history, known as the Malice at the Palace. The matchup was between two title contenders and Eastern Conference rivals, the Pistons and Pacers. These two teams had a history of hard-fought battles and moments of chippiness. In fact, the game itself had plenty of physical, intense moments between the players, which had part in leading up to its climactic ending. There was less than a minute remaining in the fourth quarter. The game had been clearly decided with the Pacers holding a 15-point lead when Ron Artest fouled Ben Wallace from behind. Wallace took offense to the hard foul and retaliated at Artest, shoving him back. Players and coaches quickly surrounded the two players, trying to defuse the situation. Ron Artest then decided for some reason he wanted to chill on the scorer's table while the rest of the players and coaches sorted it out. After laying there for several moments, Artest was then hit directly by a cup of...
And I'm sorry for pausing it, but at that specific moment, this had nothing to do with basketball and the rules, okay? This had nothing to do with it. Now this is the fan issue now.
beer from a fan several rows up. In a rage, Artest ran up into the stands to punish the fan who threw the cup. Several players followed Ron into the stands, and what ensued was an absolute brawl between players and fans. Steven Jackson was throwing punches, and fans were throwing punches. Players and coaches were trying to restrain each other. Jermaine O'Neal got involved and threw a running punch at a confrontational Pistons fan. Angry fans were throwing popcorn and drinks at the players as they entered the tunnels, and children were crying in the audience. The game had to be cut short because of the violence on display. It was a sad and disturbing sight.
Ghetto! Like, bro, this is ghetto, bro. And then, now, after that situation, I bet you the NBA lost money. I bet you the NBA had lost a lot of money. So, you know they had to do something. And now, you know, the NBA are now looking at how, I mean, we've all, you know, there's always been racism in the league, but now we're looking at it like, bro, this is a bunch of black people fighting. Like, this is how black people are. Like, and that's what they were saying back in the 70s when there was a whole bunch of, you know, the drugs and the fighting and all that stuff, because it was starting to become a predominantly black, you know, era, and it was going to be a predominantly black league, you know? So when they look into that, now how you think they think about us now? You know what I'm saying?
The NBA had never seen before. The following day, the league took strong action, handing out strong suspensions to the players. This game didn't just have an effect on the players' season and the Pistons and Pacers season, but it had an effect on the future of the NBA as a whole. You see, the NBA suffered a gigantic hit to their reputation due to this game, and the league was determined to repair their reputation to ensure nothing like this ever happened again. Remember, this entire fiasco started with some chippiness, some pushing, and trash talking between the players. So after the Malice at the Palace, the refs became even quicker to call technical fouls to defuse situations. Back in the day, players could have ongoing trash talking and you could sense the tension. But now, a player simply looks at another player wrong and the ref is quick to tee him up.
And that's my issue with the NBA. Because you can get a technical foul for passing gas. Like, you can literally get a technical foul for literally anything. Do y'all remember... I know some of y'all old heads remember this, but do y'all remember whenever Tim Duncan was laughing on the bench and he got ejected for that? Do y'all remember that? That just goes to show how sensitive the league is. And it doesn't like, that just goes to show that it's not just the NBA players, it's the referees too. Because they're sitting there giving you technical fouls for literally anything. They're calling fouls for literally anything. They're not calling fouls for literally anything. So it's a bunch of inconsistencies, man, and it's an issue. And I know what they're trying to do, but y'all are not doing it right at all, bro.
You just don't see the same disdain and intensity between players anymore, but that's in large part because the referees won't let it even come close to escalating to that anymore. It may have been a necessary priority for the league to make, but in doing so, it also softened the game tremendously. That is some of the NBA's history that has brought us to the league we know today. I see a lot of players taking heat for being soft, but when you honestly look at the game's history and what brought us here, you'll see that it was mostly the league itself that made the game soft and not its players. Players today can't even play a hard style of basketball even if they wanted to. They simply aren't allowed to. But here's the question. Can you honestly blame the NBA for taking this approach? I mean, who really wants to see the Celtics season ruined next year to another Kyrie Irving injury because the defending team was punishing players who drove the lane like the 80s Pistons did? Who really wants to see another escalated fight like the Malice at the Palace, where players and fans are literally fighting, leaving children in the stands crying, who came to the game just to see their heroes play basketball? I certainly don't want to see that again. The league has made many significant changes throughout the years, but honestly, I understand those changes. I loved the NBA back in the day, and sometimes I reminisce about its old school style, but I also love today's NBA. I appreciate today's game for all the things that it is, but I also appreciate it for all the things that it isn't.
That was very well put, because 80s and 90s basketball is not, cupcakes and rainbows, bro. Y'all got your own stuff. In my opinion, I think that the NBA was really considered soft. I want to say 2014-ish, 2013, somewhere around the early 2010s era, because in the 2000s, it wasn't soft. Excuse me. The 2000s, it wasn't soft. Around 2010, 11, 12, it was kind of getting there. But then as soon as we got all the way up to 2015, 2016, it was already soft. Like, it was at that point. You know what I'm saying? He asked the question about, do you want to see more fights and things of that nature? There's certain NBA fans who wants to see that. They want to see fights. They want to see interest. They want to see that. They want to see, stuff that's not suitable for TV. That's not suitable for, basketball, because they think that's entertaining for them. Which, I mean, it's a toxic way to think, but it's bad and it sucks, but that's how some NBA fans are. But me, personally, I love to see basketball. I love to see, basketball being played the right way. And there's a right way to play it. And as of right now, I know there's a lot of things that they changed for the game for the better, but there's some things that they changed for the game that needs to be fixed, like the referees. The referee calling the technical fouls left and right for the littlest things, they need to stop that. There needs to be a consistency of fouls. You can't call a foul here and not call a foul here, and it's the exact same thing. Or call a foul because this would seem like a little bit of something. He might have just did this a little bit, but this person's clearly getting hit and you're not calling it. That's the inconsistency. There needs to be more. The referees need to be cracked down a whole lot more. The players, of course, they need to be cracked down, and the league, just the whole, the league as a whole, the Adam Silvers and those guys, they need to really crack down and look in and really zone in on what's really going on, because there's a lot of things that are going on in the league, and it's not just the players. The players play a role, but it's not just the players. Because if they fix their stuff, there's still a whole bunch of other issues going on. But I want to know what you guys think in the comment section. I probably was rambling a little bit too much, but I still want to know what you guys think in the comment section. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And until my next video, man, I'm going to catch y'all.